State Senator Mays Middleton, thank you so much. Welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Thank you, Jack, for having me on today.
You
Appreciate
bet.
it.
So I wanted to ask you first just about your reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination.
It was one of the hardest things that I've ever watched. I think of his wife. I think of those two precious children that he has. I've got 4 little ones myself. And this was a man that stood firmly on his convictions. He knew the risk. He knew that there were people out there trying to get him, but he persisted because he had that conviction in his heart of his values and to carry his word, not just as a conservative, but as a Christian out into the world. And unfortunately, he was assassinated over his beliefs, not just his conservative beliefs, but his Christian beliefs as well. And it's just an unbelievable tragedy for this nation. He was one of the greatest conservative voices we've ever had in this nation, totally irreplaceable. But I hope that we will see his legacy continue with Turning Point USA chapters throughout this nation. I know there were over 10,000 applications to start one. That's one of the best ways that we can honor Charlie Kirk's legacy.
Since then, we've seen some people make comments on social media about his assassination that a lot of people view unfavorably. And now, as far as the teachers are concerned, some of them are teachers here in the state of Texas. The Texas Education Agency is now launching investigations into some of those comments. You posted about this.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I talked to Commissioner Morath about this, and I've got zero tolerance for educators that are cheering on murder of somebody, anybody. It doesn't matter if it's Charlie Kirk or anyone else. It is wrong. I've seen it across social media. It is in countless districts. It's actually in some districts within my Senate district, Goose Creek ISD. We have some examples there. And look, at the end of the day, anyone that did that needs to be terminated immediately. They need to have their certification rejected, where they're not allowed to teach again, because frankly, they have forfeited their right to educate our children or be part of education in any way of the next generation. And we need to be harsh in the accountability for this and make sure that we've got zero tolerance for those that are cheering on this assassination and this murder, and just some of the sick things that are said, if somehow he deserved it or he had it coming. It's things that turn your stomach, and anyone that would ever say that has no right to be around our children, much less in our K-12 schools.
Now, Commissioner Morath has clarified what this investigation is. He said that there's a difference between something that's distasteful versus something where you're inciting violence, and he made that distinction. So is that really what these investigations are going to come down to? Is somebody inciting violence versus just making, a comment that people may not like?
Well, look, there's been up to 200 complaints so far. I'm glad to see that this reporting system is working. I've talked to many constituents and many voters around the state, encouraged them to report this behavior through the TEA. And we're seeing that happen. That's how it's supposed to work. That's how due process is supposed to work. But again, if there's reason to believe, and we can show that any educator in this state, whether they're in the classroom or not, whether they're an administrator or work for a university or work for a K-12 ISD, it doesn't matter where they are in the education system. They need to be held firmly accountable and fired immediately. It's wrong, and we got to make sure that we send this strong message to this next generation as well, that we will not put up with this. This is not okay. And this is a lesson we need to teach to our children as well. Thou shalt not kill. That's in the 10 Commandments that we're going to put in the classroom in every Texas school here, starting in September actually, is when that law went into effect. And these are basic biblical truths that we need to teach that next generation, basic moral truths. And those that are preaching the opposite of this culture of death, and somehow murder is justified just because you're conservative, or murder is justified just because you disagree with someone's political beliefs, it is wrong. And we've got to end this now and root this out of the system, root and branch, pull it out, and make sure that that accountability is swift.
What do you say to those who say, look, freedom of speech, if they're not on duty, why is that a problem?
Well, you're free to say that someone should be killed because of their political beliefs, but we're free to fire you because of that. That's simple.
And people need, as far as free speech, but not free of accountability, is
That's
what you're
right.
saying.
There needs to be accountability here. And this is a code of conduct issue. You know, every public university has a code of conduct on moral turpitude. Every K through 12 school does as well on moral turpitude. Clearly, this is a violation of that code of conduct as well, wishing that someone would be killed and that these poor children would not have a father and that his wife would be widowed. I mean, that is moral turpitude in my book, and it certainly fits in a violation of that code of conduct that so many public schools have already.
The Texas AFT pushed back. They said that they thought this was wrong for the TEA to launch investigations. I believe there was a state representative from Houston, Laura Ashley Simmons, who pushed back as well on these investigations.
Well, I'm not surprised that the liberal woke AFT union is opposing this because look, I've seen this happen before with them. We had a bill in committee and it said if a child is groomed or sexually abused, then they get either public school choice or private school choice. And that woke liberal teachers union opposed that bill and wanted to trap children in that situation where they were groomed or sexually abused. So repeatedly they're on the wrong side here. Repeatedly they're against kids. Repeatedly they're against parents. And repeatedly they're against basic safety, frankly, and basic common sense and things that we all agree in as a society that we should not be advocating for murder. And they're saying, yes, that's fine. We're going to protect that. It's wrong, and it shows you again that the AFT teachers unit is completely out of step with Texans and frankly with most teachers as well.
State Senator Mays Middleton, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you having me on today.
We appreciate it. Thank you.